by the time people come in the door, they have a need, right? They've realized that there's something that's driving them there, whether or not they know what that exact need is. And I find repeatedly that it's that need for connection to other people, to their communities, and to their way of life, something that's beyond the sitting in their chairs and their desks, in their cars, on their cell phones. And so I think that bringing people up and interconnecting them is almost a Gnostic experience that can bring people to an awareness that then all you have to do is just say, hey, also, you can do this.
My name is Edgar B. Herwick III. I am with WGBH. I run our Curiosity Desk. And I am happy to welcome you here to Boston Talks tonight. Our theme, urban farming. You guys into urban farming? You guys like this idea, this topic? Interested to hear about it? Good, good, good.
I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit today about how I got interested in farming and a little bit of the work that both City Growers and the Urban Farming Institute have been doing, trying to create green-collar jobs and create working opportunities for people in the city of Boston. So I grew up in Dorchester, had no idea that farming was something you could do. I definitely didn't know that urban farming was a thing. Really kind of fell into it by accident. I was working as a cook for many years, and during my time working as a cook, I decided I wanted to learn about how to grow vegetables. So I had some neighbors at the time that had a beautiful garden in their backyard, and I would see my neighbor. I'd be out on my porch, and I'd see my neighbor. He'd kind of get home from work, tend to his crops, and I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. He turned his whole backyard into a farm. So I decided one day I was going to start growing chili peppers. That was what I wanted to start with. So I got some chili pepper plants, put them in pots on the porch, and complete and total failure. I don't think we did anything right with the chilies. They looked about the same size at the end of the season than they were when we got them as transplants. So, it was sad. But fortunately, I had a friend of mine that was a cook with me at the time that had come over our house, and he kind of saw my chili plants, and he said, "Oh man, you need some help." So a couple months later, the same guy ended up telling me, "Hey, I've heard about these people, City Growers, and you should check them out. They're doing cool stuff in your neighborhood. You might be interested in this." So I went online, I researched City Growers, and I saw what they were doing was basically growing food on vacant lots in the city and growing it for market, really trying to make a business out of it. So I, got on the email, saw if I could volunteer, and a year later, because sometimes when you contact farmers during the growing season, it takes them a year to get back to you. But a year later, they got back to me, invited me out to the farm, and I started volunteering with them. And I like to say I had the aha moment. Something clicked with me. I really was enjoying myself being out there. I really liked the work. And, just on those days, even though I was getting up early to go and do volunteer work before going to work, I had so much more energy on those days, and it was really something where I felt like I had found something that I liked. So I then enrolled in the Urban Farming Institute, which is a training program, and what they were doing was, it was the first year they were offering it, but it was an urban farming training program. And so they had a classroom program, and they also had a field work program where we were actually able to work with City Growers out on the farms. So that season just kind of continued my interest. I really got passionate about it. I was really fortunate to be a part of a great class of trainees, to have a great teacher, Bobby Walker, and everybody else involved in City Growers really created this wonderful atmosphere that I was very drawn to. After that first season of the Urban Farming Institute, 4 of us who had graduated from that class then went on to take over operations at City Growers. So it was a big jump, and it was kind of trying to prove the concept of, can we train city people with no agricultural background on farming and actually make it work? I'm happy to say we had a great season the next year. Those 4 of us, we really banded together, and we were able to actually increase revenue on the farm by 30% from the year before. So it was a great success, and it was a wonderful opportunity for me to get involved in farming. I guess to back up, one of the things that's really unique about City Growers and what they were doing as an urban farming entity was they were trying to do urban farming on a for-profit model. For many years, nonprofits like the Food Project and Revision House had been successfully doing not-for-profit urban farming, agriculture work in the cities. What the founders of City Growers, Glenn Lloyd and Margaret Connors, wanted to do was to see if we could make it work as a business. And I think that the years that we put in, kind of doing it for market, doing revenue sharing, having other jobs, making it seasonal, struggling to make it work, we kind of showed that, if you have the will, you can, and the right, partnerships and the right people on board, you can make urban farming something viable. So, with that being said, City Growers has now merged with the Urban Farming Institute, which is a nonprofit. But to speak a little bit about the work that the Urban Farming Institute has continued to do is we have continued to try to train more farmers and educate more people in the city about how to grow. So we're now in our 4th year. We have a training program, about 30 people in the classroom program, and then we have about a 10-person field work apprenticeship during the whole season. Just quickly, a couple of the things that I find really meaningful about the work are the emphasis on this initiative being led from within the community that this farming is happening in. We work in Dorchester, Mattapan, and Roxbury. These are primarily communities of color. These are traditionally low-income communities where there are a lot of people with barriers to the workforce. So we, as an organization, really make an attempt to address the kind of disparities that exist through trying to provide opportunities to people from these neighborhoods to take advantage of some of the opportunities that are coming along as land gets placed into urban farming, into use as urban farms. One of the wings of our organization is also not only training people, but acquiring land. So we work with the City of Boston's Department of Neighborhood Development and a number of different partners, including the Trust for Public Land, Historic Boston Incorporated, and what we're doing is we are securing traditionally vacant or unused land. We are setting these sites up as farm sites, so bringing the infrastructure in, whether that's kind of putting down a bio barrier and bringing in clean soil, hooking up water systems, building sheds, greenhouses. We're working with partners to set these farm sites up and then to transfer them into land trusts. So we're now working with the Dudley Neighbors, Inc. We have one farm site on their land trust, and we are working in the future to set up our own community land trust for our former farm sites, so we know that these farms will continue to be farms for the next 50 years and hopefully longer. So that's a little bit about the work. I think that's my time. But yeah, it's urban farming is great. It's really changed my life, and I'm really happy to be a part of a wonderful organization and a wonderful community of folks doing this work in Boston.
Tristram Keith. Hang on here for a second. Couple questions. So you talked about your first big failure, chili peppers. Yep. What was the first thing that you really nailed? Do you remember that one? Like the first thing where you were just like, I have created a pumpkin or something like that.
Yeah, I have to say carrots. Carrots
Really?
is always that thing that's like such a satisfying thing to successfully grow. You know, when you pull that carrot out of the ground, not only is a fresh carrot like so much more delicious than anything you've tried before, but it's just, I don't know, for me it's something about pulling that beautiful carrot out of the ground. That was the first time I said, maybe I can do this. You know?
That's awesome. I'm interested in the fact that you got captivated by this idea of growing your own food, but you didn't venture outside of the city. Did you ever have a moment where you thought, I'm going to leave city life, I'm going to go live and work on a farm, or I'm going to buy a farm? Like, what kept you in the city, and did you ever have a moment where you thought about leaving?
So I appreciate that you asked that because it allowed me to touch on a part that I missed in my earlier talk, which is that a big part of what appealed to me as this work is that I always wanted to do something in my community where I grew up. I grew up in Dorchester, and I always had jobs in Cambridge. I always had jobs downtown. Whatever it was, I was getting on the train, going out to work, and hating it. And I always wanted to be able to work at my home. And I also felt a strong connection to kind of trying to stay in the community and make it a better place. And, I really do genuinely believe that that's something that we are doing. But to really answer your question, I think about getting out of the city all the time. Every time I show up at the farm and there's trash bottles thrown on the site, or, kids broke in and spray painted our tomato plants, which literally happened.
No.
You have those thoughts, but I'm very connected to the community aspect of the work that we do.
So rapid fire questions here. What is the worst part about urban farming? Is it the battling the graffiti and such?
Oh man, I would say that's not the worst part of it. Pest pressure, I don't know. It's probably the worst part of rural farming too. Weeds and flea beetles are the worst part of urban farming for me, to be honest.
And what's the best part about it?
Oh man, being able to really see the people who are selling your produce. For me, there's nothing better than harvesting something in the morning and then either delivering it to, one of our restaurant customers, Area 4, or any of the great restaurants that work with us, and, handing that product over to somebody that you have a relationship with. That's a beautiful thing. Selling at the farmer's market, equally beautiful. You can grow food and sell it to your neighbors. That's the best part for me.
And what's the weirdest thing about it?
The weirdest thing about it, I really, that's a tough one. I would say one weird thing is we had a stray dog 2 years ago. We called it the ghost dog, and this dog got a taste for lettuce because we gave him some salad mix one day. We thought he was hungry, so we left a little pile of salad mix out, and he had been kind of hanging out in the farm, but he was still there after a week, so we're like, we got to feed this dog. Somebody abandoned him, and then the dog started eating head lettuce. Dogs don't normally eat lettuce, but...
You trained him.
Yeah, we trained him.
You created a monster.
And our biggest pest was a little stray dog.
Tristram Keefe, everybody.
Thank you.
I like to say I'm in the business of building strong people and strong communities. Really, I'm in the business of increasing people's agency, right? Their ability to act, to create change in the world. Before we get into that too much, I'm just going to break it down a little bit. How many of you do CrossFit? Anybody? I was going to say it's sheepish. It's okay. You're in the minority here. How many of you have heard of CrossFit? Yeah, that's just about everybody. It's and that happens, right? Maybe you've seen it on ESPN, right? These ripped individuals doing superhuman feats of strength, but honestly, it's not mostly like that. CrossFit's this underground fitness movement that started somewhere between 15 and 4,000 years ago, depending on who you ask. And it started, when I got started in it, it was just a couple hundred guys in garages, right? Looking to pursue unorthodox methodologies to solve the problem of their fitness and wellness in this modern era. And in the past decade, it has exploded. So that now there are over 14,000 communities, 14,000 CrossFit boxes that have been opened. And that's a staggering number. To put that number into perspective, there's only about 11,000 Dunkin' Donuts in the world. All right? There's only 11,500 Starbucks in the United States. In fact, 14,000 is the number of McDonald's in the United States of America, right? So there's an enormous population of people trying to solve this problem through unorthodox methods. Unlike Starbucks and McDonald's, CrossFit isn't a franchise, though. So all of these unorthodox people pursuing unorthodox methods in garages and odd spaces are free to do it in their own way. So, which brings us to Somerville. Somerville is the place that all your friends moved to when they couldn't afford rent in Cambridge anymore. Actually, that was true in the 90s and the early 2000s. Now Medford is where all your friends moved when they couldn't afford Somerville. And part of that is that Somerville's changing, right? It's gentrifying. We have this huge biotech and high-tech wave bringing new people into the city, and that's following on the wave of artists and everybody who moved in, artists and makers, creative people that moved in when it was the cheap place to live. And so Somerville is this cool fusion of people pursuing unorthodox methods to solve problems. Now, Somerville's also a very small place. It's only 4 square miles, but in that 4 square miles are 80,000 people, which makes it the most densely populated city in the Commonwealth, right? And that sounds bad, but it's also got 100+ years of industrial legacy. And on top of that, the city tells us that there are only 160 acres of open space in the city for all of those people. And that sounds like a lot until you realize, A, that's only 6% of the land area, and B, that number also includes things like sidewalks and parking lots. So when you talk about actual green space in the city of Somerville, you're really talking about a vanishingly minuscule amount of area for all of those people. So on the one hand, you have these people who are looking for creative solutions to this health issue, right, of how to get good food. And on the other hand, you have a city that is just craving more open space. And so that's where CrossFit Somerville comes in. We're deeply embedded into this. We're just a little 8,000 square foot triangle of asphalt with a squat cinder block building sitting on about half of it. So how do we help to solve these problems? Well, it started when somebody in the community said, well, you've got a bit of flat section there. Have you ever thought about growing something on it? So we did. And it's very small. We put, some milk crates up there. We got about 100 of them, so that's like 100 square feet of area. We grew some peppers in the first season, we actually had success with the peppers, just enough to make a little bit of hot sauce, but that really energized people, right? People got into it. What else can we do? How else can we do it? Well, the soil's pretty toxic. You don't actually want to eat anything that's grown there, but right down the street, nestled as we are in between Harvard, MIT, and Tufts, is Harvard, and Harvard has an enormous waste problem. They generate prodigious amounts of waste. Every time they remodel a dorm or renovate a building, they're throwing away gobs of furniture, right? And so Rob over at Harvard Recycling is doing his best to repurpose that waste stream and get it back into the community. So we talked to him. Sure enough, we were able to get a bunch of dorm beds, perfectly good lumber, chop it up, make it into raised beds where we could get a few hundred more square feet of growing area out of a sunny side of our concrete building. Okay, so now all of a sudden we've got a burgeoning little garden. Well, Somerville's a really creative place, filled with all kinds of people trying to solve these problems. And the mayor, Joe Curtatone, is a very progressive individual. And as it turns out, they wrote urban farming legislation that allows you to raise chickens in Somerville. So now I've got a gym full of engineers who are excited about raising chickens in a place where you can get a permit. You put them together with some CAD software, and all of a sudden we have the most over-designed chicken coop possibly in history. All right? So now we've got a little flock. Let me go back. Asphalt, concrete block gym, garden, chickens. We've got 6 chickens, the maximum legally allowed flock, that give us about 24 eggs a week. Now, all of this is designed, supported, maintained by people who are mostly just there to do their push-ups and their pull-ups, right? But they're not just there for that. They're looking for ways to increase their health, to be more fully capable, more empowered individuals. They're looking for ways to connect to each other as well, right? So they're not just taking away better push-ups and pull-ups. They're taking away some skills that they're able to then... The idea is that we're able to continue this. And I got to tell you that these things do continue because, as it turns out, Somerville also has regulations about keeping bees, which is how I ended up with a beehive on top of the place. So after 2 seasons, we actually just harvested it. We got about 3 gallons of honey out of our hive. And so that's how we ended up with this little farm. And, when looking at the scope of the problem, does it make any difference? This one little garden, this one coop of 6 chickens, this beehive on top of the building? Maybe it's a drop in the bucket. But I go back to that first number I gave you guys, 14,000, right? And your friend, your old college buddy on Facebook who won't shut up about CrossFit, maybe the weird guy, Brian at the office, who always brings his food in little Tupperware containers, right? You all know that guy, right? He really cares about this problem. And I know, at least for the people in my gym, whenever they go to another city, the first thing they do is Google another CrossFit and find out where they can connect with other people who have that same passion, have that same desire to improve their lives. And hopefully, with them, they're taking this idea. Wow, that's a great roof you got there. You know what you could do on it? I'm hoping that this idea spreads. I'm hoping that not only do they take it back to their houses and create green spaces out of the interstitial web, right? Out of their windowsills, an illicit garden on their rooftop, maybe reclaiming an alleyway or a back lot, but also spreading it all over. Because when you look at those 14,000 CrossFit communities, each with at least 100 people in them. Conservatively, we're talking about 1.4 million people right now doing CrossFit. And if we can get them all thinking about their food sourcing, about changing the place where they get their great clean produce from being, Whole Foods for $4 a dozen for organic eggs to, making them in their own backyards, maybe that can make a real difference. Maybe it won't be so weird to have a gym that's actually your farm. Maybe the first question you ask when you go to the gym will be, hey, where do you keep your chickens? Oh, you got a beer in your hand. I got a beer.
JT,
Yeah.
how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, sir.
That's a good firm handshake. I'm so not surprised. Have you tasted the honey? How is it?
Would you like some, sir?
Should I do it? All right. Yeah. Wow.
Can you help me open the jar?
Yeah, right. Big moment. Wow. All right. Do I just...
Sure, go for
All right.
Gooey.
That's pretty good. Yeah? Yeah, that's really good.
Well, we're right behind the Dunkin' Donuts, so it probably tastes a little bit like Boston cream.
So, in the beginning, you said how many people do CrossFit?
That is an impossible question to answer.
No,
Conservatively.
No. When you said to the crowd, how many people here do CrossFit?
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
one
I
or
saw
two-
like
one or
two
two hands went
sheepish
up,
hands.
right?
Two sheepish hands.
And then
yeah.
you said, how many people know about CrossFit? And everybody's hand went up, right? So, I'm thinking about how you're talking about this model of the CrossFit thing and the gardening thing, and it's like, how do you? It's one thing to get everybody to kind of know this is a thing that's happening. It's another thing to get them to do it. How do you bridge the gap between all right, we've started a movement that everybody knows about, and then we've started a movement that people are now taking action to be a part of?
That's a great question, and I think if I could sell better, I'd probably be running more than one CrossFit gym. But I will say that honestly, I think the only way we can change the world is one conversation at a time, one interaction at a time, and that a lot of this is experiential learning, right? I could tell people, I could go out there and stand in the corner and talk about urban farming all day long, but until somebody actually puts their hands in the dirt, right? Until somebody grows their first carrot, right? They don't really believe they can. And I think that's why the work that Urban Farming Institute is doing is so essential. And what I think I'm doing on a small scale is doing part of that, right? People who never even thought of it or even thought it was possible, having done it, right? You take care of a chicken for a couple weeks, you realize it's not that hard to take care of chickens.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's easy. I see
Chickens, they take care of themselves.
I think it's harder to own a little purse-sized dog in this town than it is to keep care of a flock of chickens. So yeah, I just think that putting people in touch with it and making it a part of their personal experience tells them, right? It's all about agency, right? It's about expanding people's confidence in addition to their capability to act.
Were there any roadblocks along the way in doing this? I mean, or has it generally run pretty smoothly?
I've got an incredible team of people. The CrossFit Somerville is about 175 of the most engaged, functional, amazing people that you'd ever meet. And they really reflect the diversity of the new Somerville. It's people who have been, the families have been there for generations. It's artists and makers. It's people from the new high-tech wave and entrepreneurs. It's local business owners like Alex Whitmore, actually, who owns Taza Chocolate, is one of our people. And so, these people are wicked smart, as they say around here. And they're engaged, man. I couldn't ask for a better group of people to work with, and they make it all work. Are there problems? Sure, every day, but I guess we're pretty good at getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
All right. Let's hear it for him. JT!
Wanted to kind of give us and you the overview of where Freight Farms came from, what we're trying to do, and really why we came to be. It's kind of ironic that you can see the corner of the building that I lived in where my co-founder John, who's over there by the bar, of course, came up with the basic concept for Freight Farms. We really started investigating rooftop greenhouse space and the idea of creating food in the urban environment closest to where people live and eat. essentially, and realized that while the rooftop greenhouse was a fantastic method to move forward, it wasn't really accessible to the regular population, to individuals, to small businesses, to anybody who really wanted to be part of the solution to the local food supply problem. And originally, John and I kind of sat down. It was in a Dunkin' Donuts, so we love our Dunkin' Donuts here in Boston, and really started by looking at the space of the food system, access to food, food production, the food supply system, and realized there was a lot of different issues within food, which I think is why events like this have become such a thing. It is such a massive problem. It's such a big issue that needs to be tackled in so many different angles. And the reason, and essentially the way we went about it was, let's go ahead and take all of the best parts of design and technology and put them together in a way so that regular people who want to be part of that solution can be. It was a big piece of what we wanted to do. And that's really what Freight Farms is all about. At its core, Freight Farms is a recycled shipping container. It's a 40-foot insulated box that has a vertical hydroponic system, LED lights, control and monitoring, all cloud connected and app enabled, so that you can be connected to your farm 24/7 anywhere in the world. So you don't have to be a horticulturalist. You don't have to be, experienced in agriculture. You don't have to be a business person. You can pick a 320 square foot space, a parking lot, a side lot, a brownfield, an abandoned warehouse, and activate it for food production in your community. And immediately take commercial scale production and put it into your community. Which is really kind of an interesting idea when you think about it. Decentralizing the production of food and putting it back into the hands of people. And when John and I kind of, lack of a better term, stumbled upon this, standing on these rooftops, talking to people who wanted to spend millions of dollars to retrofit their rooftops and run businesses around food production, in reality, they were interested more in the marketing and interested in telling people that they were going to grow food more than actually growing plants that people could eat. And we realized there was a big opportunity to come together, figure out a way to do just the opposite, which was to put that into the hands of regular people, like you and I probably in this room. I mean, how many people here have ever run a commercial farm before? There he is. There he is, and he does a great job. Round of applause, because he does some tremendous work. And as has been alluded to, it's extremely hard work, and it's inconsistent, and it's really hard to get good at. You have your first pepper, and it's extremely emotional when it unfortunately fails. But we've all been there. We've tried, we've succeeded, we failed. But the point being, the technology was available at its base level to put together and configure in such a way that people who are motivated, and that's probably most of the people in this room. I think most of the people are here because we would like to be part of something that is the solution. I think we all believe that we should be more engaged with where our food comes from. We should be more aware of what we're eating and what we're putting in our bodies. That's a big piece of local food and local production. And really, when John and I first kind of connected and we're just across the street there in the back of the stockyard parking lot and imagining different spaces within the urban environment that could be activated and empower different people to grow food, we said, let's go down that track. Let's give it a shot. I think this was 2010 when this first all came about. It's taken us a while to get there, but I think the fact that there's 7, 8, 9 crazy, passionate, really smart people who are now part of the Freight Farms team and the family, who are here in the audience drinking beers with us, is a tribute to the fact that we all want to see change made. And it's fun to see. I think the most gratifying part is in the past 2 years, something like 50 different individuals who came to us who didn't have business experience, didn't have farming experience, said, I want to be part of the solution, and I think Freight Farms is the platform for me. Because one of the big things that nobody really wants to do when you want to solve a local problem is have to move out into the country. You know, you don't want to actually go out into the country. I like to visit. I do. I love it. I don't want to go there and have to tend to 5, 10, 15, 20 acres. I want to grow food where I am, grow food for my community, and grow a business around that. And that's really what Freight Farms is all about. Is using design, technology, and just a community. You know, the shared knowledge of I've done it one way and it's worked. I want you to do it that way and make it even better so that more and more people in more and more places can grow food on a commercial level, connect with each other, connect with the market, and actually change the way mainstream, local, fresh, healthy produce is done. And that's really what it's all about, and that's what we're all about. So that's our story. And if you have any more questions, there's so many of us here tonight, which is exciting to see. We're happy to answer questions. Thank you.
How you feeling, Brad? Brad McNamara, everybody. Come on. Yeah. Warm welcome. So I was having this weird existential moment as I'm listening to you where I'm going to myself, all right, so like local foods and people who are into local foods are important. And if you're growing them in a hydroponic crate in a local environment, are they actually local foods? And are they? You know what I'm saying?
No.
So like, it's a controlled environment, right? Mm-hmm. So is it still, I mean, can you grow something in one of these crates that would theoretically be from another climate? And does that somehow, you know, it seems to me that for some people, part of the local food thing is like, oh, I live in like New England, and in New England, blueberries grow well and cranberries grow well. But if I'm growing bananas in a crate in New England, am I growing local food?
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah. And that's kind of my question. So, like, for you, what makes what is the essence of local food? What makes it local?
I think the essence of local food is exactly what you define local as. I mean, there's been a lot of marketing, a lot of play around what is local. Yes. And, you know, one of the things that's beautiful about local is you cannot fake proximity. You know, when you ask the true question, where was this grown? Where did it come from? You know, not where was it packed, not where was it processed. You know, where did it grow and who grew it? That's really the essence of local.
There it is. Brad McNamara, everybody. Brad McNamara. Thanks, man. Great job.
So I'm standing in for my husband, Michael, tonight. He's Jeff's business partner, and he gesticulates a lot more than I do. But I promise to, yeah, thank you. I promise to keep the violent hand motions down. So Jeff is one of my most favorite people to talk to and has been for the past 8 years since he and my husband got into business together. And I've seen so many iterations of Area 4 over the years, and a lot of the work that I do in the nonprofit world is extremely informed by what we do at Area 4, and a lot of my knowledge of what's going on in the food world is because of the restaurants. So, Jeff, do you want to tell us a little bit about why it's important to buy local and cook local?
You know, I was sort of listening to a question that Brad was asked about, you know, what makes local local. You know, for us, it's pretty simple. I mean, we're in the entertainment business on some level. So, you know, for me, it's food that doesn't have to travel very far. And so with that in mind, obviously being in a city, sort of town next to a city, but we're able to access anything local. And it really comes down to, from a restaurant standpoint, it comes down to consistency and quality. And you'd be surprised how challenging it is for many farmers, rural, forget about urban, but even in rural cities, to be able to give you a consistent product. I can't, you know, I'm going to get immediate feedback from, we're in an open kitchen, so I'm going to get immediate feedback from most guests. Come by, hopefully it's, hey, everything was great, but occasionally you get by like, everything was, so-so. But, you know, it comes down to product. And actually, you know, we've been working with city growers for 4 years. And I think what it all comes down to is they have an amazing product. I can't, people always say, well, I'll have cooks when it comes into the kitchen say, hey, chef, the lettuce is warm. Yeah, I know, it just came out of the ground. So it doesn't get any better, and they're surprised by that. They're like, well, is it okay? Yeah, no, it's actually perfect. It's right where it's supposed to be, but get it in the walk-in, because it's gotta stay fresh. They do such an amazing job, and all I have to do is just present it to you guys in a very fresh and clean format. And so, but first and foremost, it has to be right. So they're able to do that. We're kind of in a funny movement in the restaurant industry where, for years, meat was the center of the plate for most restaurants. It is changing quickly, where vegetables are now becoming a center of the plate item that people want to buy. People want to spend good money for. We all work hard. We all work hard for our money. So I don't take that for granted in the restaurant. It's to make sure that I can provide you with something that is up to your standards. So to be able to do that, it starts with the right product. And then for me, just not manipulate it to a point where you don't even recognize it anymore. So if you get the right thing right out of the gate. So for years, we were trying to source good lettuce. I'll try again. You'd be surprised how hard it is to do that. We went through a lot of farms, local, to maintain that. But the reality of it is it costs more money to buy local than it does to buy lettuce or arugula from California. So I spend twice the money to carry a local product because it means that much to me. It's important because they are doing such an amazing job there that I need to be able to support them and give them what they need. We have access to a lot of people every day. We cross paths with a lot of different people every day. So we try to make sure that we can tell that story and tell it appropriately. And it used to be sort of a trendy thing. People wanted, to put on their menu, hey, we're local, we're sustainable. Everybody wants to talk about how local and sustainable they are. But so we've stopped doing that. I don't put names on products or on menu items. I've just sort of, because again, we are in the restaurant industry. But in order to keep it trendy, because I think it's important that it stay trendy, because trendy moves the needle. And in order to move the needle and tell their story, you guys have to be into it. And when you're into it, I can provide you with something that you might not find in every market. So it's important that city growers, I contacted Tristram, I guess it was a month and a half ago. It's like, super excited to get your greens going. How far out are we? And he's like, we're close, it's been cold. Where are we at? So he actually contacted me yesterday, and we're taking the delivery on Friday. So we'll continue to do that right up until they can't provide it anymore. And then, unfortunately, I'll sort of scramble and figure it out from there.
So, Chef, does that mean there will be a City Growers green salad on the menu on Friday or on Saturday?
Friday night.
Friday night,
ready.
You heard
I'm
it.
ready. Menu's ready. It's printed and waiting to be stuffed. So
don't miss out. So what I've learned so much from the restaurant element of my life has been how important fresh food and fresh produce are. And my husband Michael and I oversee a small nonprofit, and we currently fund a farmers market that City Growers has been a part of for many years. I'm proud to say that there's multiple connections in that world. Boston is a small town. We're just starting on the journey of food justice and food sovereignty, and we're focusing in Bowdoin, Geneva, Dorchester, and working. Our entry point was the BIDMC Bowdoin Street Health Center. So last year we supported their farmers market. We had City Growers, Ancient Grains, and another local urban farm. And this year we've been hosting convenings in the off season, and with the help of Revision Farm, which is also in Dorchester, just outside of the Bowdoin Geneva border, and the ABCD on Geneva Ave in Bowdoin, Geneva, we will be rolling out a garden socks program. Now, this is a lot of the people who live in the neighborhood come from countries where they farm, where they grow. They know how to do it. They know it's not new to them. But what's new to them is this unfortunate New England climate that we all live in. And while yet we don't have freight farms, who knows, in 5 years we might. Can I get a yeah for freight farms? So the idea is we start with 50 families through Head Start and through the patients at Bowdoin Geneva Health Center, Bowdoin Street Health Center, I'm sorry. And we give them this opportunity to grow their own food. Revision Farm in Dorchester will be doing the seedlings, 3 lettuces, 2 tomatoes, and a pepper, I believe. I may or may not be right on that pepper. It could be 3 tomatoes. But in a 4x4 space, they can grow enough food for their entire family for the season. And it can be reused for at least 2 seasons. And the thing is, we're talking about a neighborhood that doesn't have direct access to fresh food. It's a lot of fast food. It's a lot of fried foods. And the reality is the ICIC put out a report earlier this year or late last year that you live in Back Bay, you're the median income, the highest median income in the city, and then you look at Roxbury, which is right next door to Dorchester, there's really only now about 3 grocery stores. And not to say that people aren't savvy and aren't going to Somerville to go buy their food or going to South Bay to go get their produce, but the easiest way for people to get fresh food, especially if they have the know-how, is to grow it themselves. And we are at a no cost to the grower. We are doing these garden socks in a way that, CrossFit in Somerville is creating food opportunities for people who are members of their gym. And it's a different demographic, but it's a huge demographic. And we really hope that what we learn from the restaurant informs the work that we do in Dorchester and really helps expose, there's definitely an economic element, and we hope to create jobs and hope to team up with UFI and create green-collar jobs in the neighborhood and really bring the food sovereignty back to the people of Bowdoin Geneva.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to awareness.
Absolutely.
And I had an opportunity to sit in on one of the meetings down in that area, and I took for granted growing up where I grew up. I grew up in a tough city, but I grew up in a good part of that tough city, and we didn't have challenges like that. I didn't really understand that awareness. There's a lack of it, and so I think we try to tell the story at the restaurant. Just keep doing the work you're doing, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Amazing job. Let's talk. So I mean, think about not just how you can grow for yourself, but how you can help other people in the community beyond your neighborhood to grow together.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's hear it for them. Liana and Jeff. Real quickly, because we're running short on time. There's restaurants fail all the time. Yeah, it's sort of like a slim profit margin thing. And yet you continue to kind of do this thing with the local produce and does it affect the bottom line, or is it does?
Yeah, I mean, it does, and there's always a conscious decision. I mean,
Sure.
there's only so much I can do. The goal is to keep your doors open.
Yeah.
And then you can continue to tell your story. So we sort of pick and choose where we can do it.
Yeah.
And there's certain farms that I can't work with because they sort of have lost, in my mind, they've lost where it's going. And
What do you mean by that?
well, because they realize it's a trend. They realize that they're selling a commodity.
So they're up in their
They're
price.
huge.
Because,
Some of the prices are huge. And so I choose to not do business with them, and that's fine. But I try to focus more on and tell the stories of the guys that are doing good work and giving you a fair market value for what you're trying to do. And to me, again, to put in perspective, 3 pounds of arugula out of California is $15. to buy from city growers might be close to double that. But to buy it from a guy who's trying to sell it as a commodity and is not out there, killing himself over it, and he's living a good life, he's selling it for 2.5 times, 2 3/4 times that.
Wild. So, is there any kind of future where that stuff balances out at all, where it's not cheaper to buy arugula from California by a mile?
I think it comes down to awareness, because I think we all, generally speaking, is about making sure that product don't serve as, we eat too much as Americans. We tend to eat too much, and myself included.
Yeah.
So I think we can eat healthier, and I think part of this is that awareness and that education. Now, in a restaurant, there's only so much of that I can do, because I don't want you to come in and be a part of an experience, and then, I'm sitting here stuffing information down your throat. You're out to have a good time.
Sure.
So within
Entertainment
reason,
business.
on some level,
Yeah.
yeah. And so within reason is about telling the story. And so, this is an amazing story to tell, and we can continue to do that. And at some point, you start to make sacrifices, and you just hope that those sacrifices are understood by the people who continue to come in your restaurant.
Jeff and Liana, Area 4. We like to wrap this up just kind of with a little bit of a chat among these folks. And I want to kick off the conversation with this. It sounded to me from what I heard you guys talking about, the reaction of the crowd, we got a group here who have bought into this. You know what I'm saying? So my job is at a public radio station. And I spend a lot of my time with people who also work at public radio stations and people who are interested in public radio stations. But the truth of the matter is, when you look at the people who are listening to radio and watching television in America, the vast majority of them are not listening to public television or radio. One of my big hobbies is I'm a swing dancer. I do Lindy Hop dancing. I'm super into it. I love it. And there's a community all over the world that do this. But we are like a minuscule % of the world, right? And so I guess for me, what I do in my work and dancing, that's great, it's fun, but it doesn't seem to me as important as the stuff that you guys are talking about. And yet, I think that here we have an audience who's into this idea. Yes, sustainability, like urban gardening. Yes, like food, important. But there's a whole bunch of people, I think, out there in the world who have not yet been converted. So I guess my question is like, how do you expand out of, whether it be the urban centers or the places where this is an issue, or the people who are activated on it, the people who are activists for it, and how do you make this something that is like understood as important by everyone?
Create jobs. Create jobs. Green collar farming, teaching people how to cook, giving front of house skills, which is something that's often very overlooked, and it takes a special nuance. I think that when people have to work with healthy, locally grown foods, it becomes a part of their life, and it just becomes natural, and that's where the behavioral change really comes from.
For me, it's about changing habits, and that's a challenge. Challenging people grow up a certain way, they eat a certain way, and they get older. So it's a slow grind. It's a slow, again, trying to support those people that are trying to make that change and keep that grind going. It's a sort of a long-term view, but it's taken us a long time to get here. So I think it's not going to just turn around.
Yeah, definitely. I would reiterate, create jobs and create opportunities for people, but also youth, give youth exposure to it. Some of the most meaningful part of the work for me is when we have kids, elementary, middle school, high school students that come out and they say, oh man, you guys got a farm on Blue Hill Ave? Or they see what we're doing and they can see themselves in our shoes. So definitely exposing the youth.
Yeah, I've actually got a little bit different take. I agree. There's a grind and there's a long term, and providing jobs and building the infrastructure around it is a part of it. But as the only unofficial cult leader on the stage, I'll say there's a different approach to it, which is that you get people in. I'm not saying I'm like running a Pentecostalist or a snake handler thing here, but there is a Gnostic piece of it that shouldn't be overlooked, right? The practice of getting people in. Like you said, the kids are excited. You have a farm, right? If you get people into it, we all know that guy who just talks about his paleo diet all day long, right? And if you can take that kind of enthusiasm by showing them dramatic change in their lives, and that's what I've seen over and over the years that I've operated these facilities, is that people come with a need, right? With a gaping hole, and let's be honest, that like CrossFit is terrifying, in actually a little awkward when you hear your coworkers talk about it all the time. So by the time people come in the door, they have a need, right? They've realized that there's something that's driving them there, whether or not they know what that exact need is. And I find repeatedly that it's that need for connection to other people, to their communities, and to their way of life, something that's beyond the sitting in their chairs and their desks, in their cars, on their cell phones. And so I think that bringing people up and interconnecting them is almost a Gnostic experience that can bring people to an awareness that then all you have to do is just say, hey, also, you can do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think like just to sort of continue with the trend here, because there's a lot of tremendous ideas and a lot of good work being done. The idea of also and continuing the idea of engaging with people in a way that empowers them and gives them a sense of ownership and a sense of being, is really important. And I think one of the things that we spend a lot of time focusing around is the next generation and the generation after that, and the problem that needs to be solved. We had a little discussion upstairs before we got down, about trying to figure out, like, what is Snapchat? I mean, I'm still working on it. I mean, like, I'm working pretty hard. A couple people over here will tell you. I really try. Still haven't quite got it. But, the idea of taking tools like that, and the power behind them and understanding how people use those, and that there's a whole generation behind that generation that is just going to be, coming up with those things and putting different tools in their hands to be part of the solution. And, part of that is growing food in a sustainable way, whether it's environmentally or financially, and just pushing that forward.
So what about the idea of, there are so many distractions, there are so many things that we could be doing with our time. We have access to so many things that give us instant satisfaction. What about the idea that I just go, you know what, like growing my own food is a pain in the ass, and it's hard, and it's going to take me a long time, and sometimes it doesn't even work. Why am I even going to bother? Like, ooh.
Then you buy from your local farmer.
I can go to a grocery store and buy food. I can go to a restaurant, someone's going to make me food. Why should I grow my own food?
Go to Area 4. Sorry, shameless promo.
I actually, it's funny you brought that up, because I will tell you, so 4 years ago when we were opening a restaurant, it's a lot of work opening a restaurant. And my daughter was born 2 weeks before we opened. So she was born April 21st. We opened May 7th. I sold my house May 25th. I closed and moved September. Worked 7 days a week. And my birthday gift the following year from my wife was a area of our backyard that was carved out for a garden. And I was like, great. How am I going to do this? But I will tell you that 4 years later, it's now a raised cedar garden that takes up twice the space that it did. And it didn't fit in at first. She did it. She's the one who did it. I think as we continue to do it, for guys like me, because I have no time, but I think, like what Brad's doing, you're giving people an opportunity to have it fit into their life. And I think that, part of what I said about making time for it, time is more so of how we continue as we evolve with it. The technology, whether it's the opportunity that just you stumble upon, and now you make it smaller maybe for people to take it on a residential level. Where does it go from here? It's making it fit into people's lives. Because you're right. Otherwise, it won't stick. It will, but it'll take time, longer.
Yeah, definitely. I would say I totally identify with that. Oh, am I supposed to wait till this seed germinates, and then how long is it going to be till I get the crop? But I mean, I really think you have to get your hands dirty and see it to believe it, and you might discover that that's the most gratifying thing. It's something you have to wait for. I mean, whether it's a crop that takes 30 days or a fruit tree that's going to take 5 years before it gives you anything, just got to try it.
Yeah, I'm with Tristram on this one. I agree. It's long, it's hard, it sucks, and fortunately, that's kind of my whole business is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? I mean, dramatic personal change doesn't happen overnight. I think really in any case, I guess the first slogan I had on the back of my T-shirts was "Forging powerful athletes through conscious choice," and I think we do make a conscious choice for what we have time for, right? To what you were saying, and so. Right, all I can do is connect somebody to the approach. I can't make it easier. If I was doing that, I'd probably be selling my stuff on late night television for $29.99. But honestly, that's not what works, right? I'm not interested in taking people's money. With a cruise? Yeah. Sure, you can. I could sell you on a cruise. That's no. All I can sell you is hard work and pain and suffering, and the idea that ultimately it's going to make your life better. And I think, honestly, that's what a farm's like, if my experience has anything to do with it. So, good luck.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd have to agree with everything that's said. I mean, I think once again, just kind of echoing like what is next and what is coming. I mean, I think the food system as it is today is extremely efficient, extremely good. Like, I mean, the fact that like you can get lettuce from California and it's dramatically cheaper than what is local. I think what is interesting is that the people today, the next generation, the generation after them, who we talked a little bit about, who grew up in this digital age, are actually looking for real experiences. I feel like myself and some of my friends and like everybody I know who's like younger than me, and I'm not that young anymore, like we, are more interested in the experience than the physical good. It's like why we love farming. It's why we love going to a restaurant where the chef is fully involved. And like we know we get a connection with what is made and how it was produced. And I think, like that's only gonna permeate as the rest of society has that instant gratification. And I think there's certain things about food and about community that you just don't expect, and you feel better when it's not instant. You feel better when it's about a connection.
4 years in a restaurant, I'll tell you it's changing 100%. People come for that stuff. They want it. And so that alone is telling you that there's something to be said for it, whether it's the experience, but you get a taste for it, you realize, wow, the mesclun mix that I've been eating for years that had no flavor whatsoever. Lettuce actually has taste. It has taste. Your lettuce is amazing. Amazing. Nothing on it. It is flat out amazing. You don't have to do anything to it. So if I could do that in my backyard and somebody gives me the means to do that, and I can go to work and throw some water on it and come back and it's a little healthier and keep it, okay. But I think it's going to take time.
All right, we only got a few minutes left, so I just want a final thing from all you guys. Just go down the line. I think we got a captive audience here. I think we got people who are into this. What is your one simple piece of advice? What can I do? I'm into this. I'm into urban gardening. I'm into, inspiring people to grow their own food. I'm into sustainability. I believe in it. I want to make a career of it. Whatever. What's your piece of advice?
Live it. Just do it. I mean, go volunteer, whether it's at some place like UFI and learning how to actually run your own farm or grow your own garden. BNAN runs some great programs around creating gardens in your city, or just get your fingers in the dirt. I mean, or eat at Area 4.
To me, it's obviously just continued awareness, and I think telling your story. Fortunately, today, we were talking earlier about, well, Facebook's broken, Twitter's kind of broken, Instagram's broken, but there's an opportunity this thing was streaming all night, there's an opportunity to tell your story just from sitting here. You can tell your story to a lot of people, and a lot of people can be impacted just through short messages. So that continued awareness, don't underestimate your ability to impact other people with this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my piece of advice would be, if you're interested in learning about this stuff, seek out people that are already doing it, and see how you can fit in and get involved. You don't have to start your own new thing and reinvent everything. There's a lot of people out there doing amazing work in this city, so if you want to get involved, seek out the people that are doing it, definitely.
Yeah, and I actually think it goes back to something you asked about. How do you convert somebody from knowing a thing to doing a thing? That was something that was really personal to me. I mean, when I started in this whole fitness thing, I weighed 100 more pounds than I do right now. And the way this started was I lost 100 pounds doing CrossFit. And the question I got over and over is, how do I do this? Well, it's not a miracle. It's just hard work. But reducing those barriers to entry is important. So that's why I made these facilities. That's why I created a place where people can come do this. And I think my coworkers would kill me if I didn't say, come see us at CrossFit Somerville, right? You can play with our chickens. You can pet our bees. But you can also, find a gateway maybe to some more connection and community. And ultimately, that's why I'm really grateful for the work that's happening here, because they are lowering those barriers to entry for people to come get involved. So I'd say, yeah, if you want to do it the really hard way, come to my place. If you want to do it maybe a little bit easier way, go to the Urban Farmer Institute.
I think what works for us and what is on this panel right now is the idea of insisting on empowerment. Whether that means, like talking to the actual chef and insisting on knowing, who cooked your meal, what went behind it, all of these things, rather than, hiding behind like that digital wall that is put up in a lot of our lives. It's like insist on empowering yourself, and that doesn't matter whether you're 15 or you're 50, and that comes all the way through where your food comes from. That comes from like, personal empowerment of getting fit and staying fit or just having fun moving around. Or if you want to become a farmer, great. All these things are great options. And it's the idea of, in every step of the way, insisting on empowerment. And a lot of that is just asking questions and talking to the people and finding out what you're involved in and where it came from. Whether that's food, whether that's fitness, whether that's a restaurant, whether it's your shoes, anything.
No matter what you're pursuing, video game, music, or anything, you really have to grind it out. Don't stop. Keep pushing. I don't care if it takes till you're 50 years old. Just keep pushing. Keep going after it. And it's never too late to start. You can start anytime. Don't have, I'm too old. No, you're not too old. You're not too young. Just get it done.